Celebrity Storytelling. How are we doing today? We are going to be reading a story, but first we're going to be doing a Christmas thing.
So, we've got these Christmas balls right here.
Hot cocoa bombs.
This one looks like it would go with a...
Batman.
This one looks like it would go in here. Kimmy, pick yours. Is that her?
Yeah, whichever one you want.
Okay.
And I would like that one.
Alright. This one looks like it would look good in there.
Alright, are we ready?
We're ready.
Somebody get a spoon.
Oh, and I can have peppermint, can't I? Because it's a peppermint white chocolate.
Well, somebody get spoons.
Are we going to pour these one at a time? Or
Yeah. Ready?
which one first?
JJ's first.
JJ's first.
I don't think it was hot enough. Stir it up, stir it up.
This one will be mine. Come on.
Come on, break open.
Come on.
Oh, there it did.
Look at that.
There are
That's awesome.
marshmallows. Now I'm going to smush them.
Hey,
Star.
okay, which one's next? Yeah.
Okay, we will do Kimmy's next.
Watch out, JJ. It's
JJ.
hot. It's pink.
Yeah.
Hey, I don't think you have to do that, Kim. I think it does it by itself.
Yeah, it does.
It just takes...
Great. It's whatever.
takes
It's
a minute.
fine. Okay, remove your mugs so I can do Dad's and mine. Okay. And Mr. Stevens.
I haven't had a marshmallow in 5 years.
You can do both of ours at the same time.
Okay.
Sorry if there's a shadow. We're not really set up for a studio in our kitchen.
That would be interesting though.
Yeah, if we did have a studio in the kitchen, I think that Mom could probably
These
do,
are awesome.
do some kind of a cooking channel. Because her cooking is awesome!
Yours broke open. Oh, oh wow,
And
look at
she
this.
grilled a brisket today, and it was awesome.
It's more like I smoked it in the barbecue. I'm stirring both.
So if you haven't seen my, that is the HQHQ picture that we got at the headquarters in Fort Sill.
These look amazing and messy and fun. Yay, Merry Christmas Eve, everybody.
Merry Christmas, everybody. So we're going to have a special Bible story tonight. We're going to take a break from Judges.
Are we doing the Christmas story?
All right, so now we're going to head upstairs to our studio. Sorry for the shadow.
Oh my gosh, it tastes amazing. It's so sweet.
Hi, I'm Heavy D. I'm going to tell you a story. What? What? No.
Okay.
Hi. So if you missed our hot cocoa action, then sorry about that. But you can go back to the front of the video and watch those chocolate bombs, or I like to call them Christmas bombs because they're really great for Christmas. I need, I think, a little bit more light. And there. All right. So are we? C'est bon? Hopefully that's in the little thing. makes me a little... Okay. This is my normal coffee mug that I have. Come and take it. All right. C'est bon. So, we are on a different story today. After the horrendous thing that happened in Judges last night, we're going to take a little break from Judges, and we're going to read in the book of Matthew. We're going to read part of chapter 1 and most of chapter 2. Are we ready?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
I got my claw.
Hi. And I've got some shadow, which I'm not really sure why. Let me see if I move this closer, if that makes it better. Okay, and sagging. All right.
Whole family in on it.
Huh?
Ben got the whole family.
Oh, that's
on it.
great. Okay. So, this is Matthew chapter 1. I'm going to skip the genealogy for now. But when we read Matthew, I will read the entire genealogy along with everything else in the book. But for now, I will just start with verse 18. This is the English Standard Version of the Bible. Now the birth of Jesus Christ took place in this way. When his mother Mary had been betrothed to Joseph, before they came together, she was found to be with child from the Holy Spirit. And her husband Joseph, being a just man and unwilling to put her to shame, resolved to divorce her quietly. But as he considered these things, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream, saying, Joseph, son of David, do not fear to take Mary as your wife, for that which is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will bear a son, and you shall call his name Jesus, for he will save his people from their sins. All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet. Behold, the virgin shall conceive and bear a son, and they shall call his name Emmanuel, which means God with us. When Joseph woke from his sleep, he did as the angel of the Lord commanded him. He took his wife, but knew her not until she had given birth to a son, and he called his name Jesus. Now after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, wise men from the east came to Jerusalem, saying, Where is he who has been born King of the Jews? For we saw his star when it rose, and have come to worship him. When Herod the king heard this, he was troubled, and all Jerusalem with him. And assembling all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Christ was to be born. They told him, In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it is written by the prophet. And you, O Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah. For from you shall come a ruler who will shepherd my people Israel. Then Herod summoned the wise men secretly, and ascertained from them what time the star had appeared. And he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, that I too may come and worship him. After listening to the king, they went on their way, and behold, the star that they had seen when it rose went before them until it came to rest over the place where the child was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced exceedingly with great joy. And going into the house, they saw the child with Mary his mother, and they fell down and worshipped him. Then, opening their treasures, they offered him gifts, gold and frankincense and myrrh. And being warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they departed to their own country by another way. Now when they had departed, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, Rise, take the child and his mother and flee to Egypt and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him. And he rose and took the child and his mother by night and departed to Egypt and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what the Lord had spoken by the prophet, Out of Egypt I called my son. Then Herod, when he saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, became furious, and he sent and killed all the male children in Bethlehem and in all that region who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had ascertained from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what was spoken by the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, weeping and loud lamentation, Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be comforted because they are no more. But when Herod died, behold, an angel of the Lord appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt, saying, Rise, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel, for those who sought the child's life are dead. And he rose and took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he had heard that Archelaus was reigning over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there, and being warned in a dream, he withdrew to the district of Galilee, and he went and lived in a city called Nazareth, so that what was spoken by the prophets might be fulfilled, that he would be called a Nazarene. And that is the end of Matthew chapter 2. Notice nowhere in here... I don't know it for sure. I would have to look more closely in Luke exactly where they lived before, but I don't know if they actually lived in Nazareth before that's something that I just caught. They moved to Nazareth after Jesus' birth. So obviously Jesus' birth had an impact on their family. Another thing to note is that Joseph is never recorded. Obviously he did speak, but there's none of his words are recorded in the actual Bible. And it's most probable that he passed away sometime during Jesus' growing up time, which is actually pretty in line with Joseph being much older than Mary, because obviously if he's older, then he would have died earlier, more than likely. The reason why why I think that he probably died during Jesus' childhood, or maybe his young adulthood, before his ministry, for several reasons. First of all, whenever they refer to Mary later on in the Gospels, it's Mary singular. It's never Mary and Joseph. And even when Jesus is on the cross, he tells John, "Hey, listen, this is your mother that you're going to take care of from now on." And he's referring John to Mary, his mother. And that Jesus, being the oldest child in the family, would have had the responsibility to take care of Mary if her husband had passed away, if she was a widow. So it makes sense then that Jesus handing that responsibility off to John, since Jesus wasn't, he didn't have any descendants. Handing that responsibility off to John would have made sense on the cross, only if Joseph wasn't around at that time. So that's an interesting tidbit. There's nothing doctrinal about that at all, but it's just kind of interesting to consider that Jesus lost his dad sometime before he was 30-ish years old. So, well, definitely before he was on the cross. So, a couple things to think about. The rest of the family's downstairs right now, so I am stalling, but that's fine. I'm not upset with anybody. Okay, so the last you guys are gonna mess up my camera.
Yeah, that's the camera.
Whoa, time out. I've got my hot cocoa here. All right, so the last 2 chapters. Do we have a synopsinator?
A
Well, do we have a synopsinator?
Okay, your synopsinator is eating a candy cane.
Okay. Be sure to say Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. This candy cane is a bit, yeah. But anyway, what happened in the last chapter was he was going down this garden where there was this fortune telling thing with water and papyrus, I think.
What is papyrus paper? Okay.
Okay. And so, yeah, there was a fortune telling thing, and then there was this person who came over, and she was like the most beautiful person ever, and she was getting a drink for her father, and then out of nowhere, and they went on and on and on about how noticeable she was, sorry. And then this one guy, forget his name. Masala. Sorry, I can remember everything except for the names. So Masala, he runs up and nearly knocks into her.
Did he just run up? What was he doing?
He was on a horse.
He was driving his chariot.
Yeah, he was driving his 5-horse chariot.
4-horse.
Sorry, yeah.
Christmas kitten.
And she's gone. So he was driving his 4-horse chariot, and then he nearly crashed into her, and then he was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't see you." When they went on for like nearly an entire chapter about how noticeable she was and everything, and then Ben-Hur came up and said, and Masala didn't recognize him, so Ben-Hur came up and said, "Hey, you shouldn't do this."
Hmm?
And then he was like, "Okay, sorry." And then the person invited Ben-Hur over to the place she's staying, and then Masala like went away or something, and then Ben-Hur told somebody who was with him about what he did and how he was there when his mom and sister were captured.
Who is the somebody? It's the somebody that Simonides sent to spy on him.
Right.
His name's Malak or something like that.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, and that's about it, right?
Sure, but who did he bump into in the process? Who from the beginning of the story did he bump into that we know?
Oh, it was one of the wise men. The Egyptian one.
Right. Balthazar, the Egyptian wise man, who is under the service, I guess, of the sheik that is offering up the horses so that they can compete in the race. All right,
Yep.
now get up. I'm just joking. Merry Christmas, everybody. Merry Christmas.
If you couldn't tell, I was sticking
humbug.
If you couldn't tell, I was sticking out my tongue at him.
Okay, so now we've got chapter 10. It's called Ben-Hur Hears of Christ. And this is going to be our one and only chapter that we read tonight, alas. We had the extended intro because of the what was it? Hot chocolate bombs that we did, which is a lot of fun. And then we also had the interruption with the power problem. Oh, I didn't actually explain that on video. So the reason why it was cut was because of a power issue that I had. So I didn't have enough power on my phone, and I had meant to plug it in, and I forgot. So it is what it is. Thank you, one person who's joined me. All right. Chapter 10, Ben-Hur hears of Christ. Beyond the village, the country was undulating and cultivated. In fact, it was the garden land of Antioch with not a foot lost to labor. The steep faces of the hills were terraced, Even the hedges were brighter of the trailing vines, which, besides the lure of shade, offered passers-by sweet promises of wine to come, and grapes in clustered purple ripeness, over melon patches and through apricot and fig tree groves and groves of oranges and limes. The whitewashed houses of the farmers were seen, and everywhere plenty. The smiling daughter of peace gave notice by her thousand signs that she was at home, making the generous traveler merry at heart, until he was even disposed to give Rome her dues. Occasionally also views were had of Taurus and Lebanon, between which a separating line of silver, the Orontes, placidly pursued its way. In course of their journey, the friends came to the river, which they followed with the windings of the road, now over bold bluffs and then into vales, all alike allotted for country seats. Are we still here?
Yep.
Okay, I had an error message on my phone, so sorry about that. I lost my place. I keep getting texts on my watch. It's okay. I lost my place. All alike allotted for country seats, and if the land was in full foliage of oak and sycamore and myrtle and bay and arbutus and perfuming jasmine, the river was bright with slanted sunlight, which would have slept where it fell but for ships in endless procession, gliding with the current, tacking for the wind, or bounding under the impulse of oars, some coming, some going, and all suggestive of the sea, and distant peoples, and famous places, and things coveted on account of their rarity. To the fancy there is nothing so winsome as a white sail seaward blown, unless it be a white sail homeward bound, its voyage happily done, and down the shore the friends went continuously, till they came to a lake fed by backwater from the river, clear, deep, and without current. An old palm tree dominated the angle of the inlet. Turning to the left at the foot of the tree, Malik clapped his hands and shouted, "Look, look, the orchard of palms!" The scene was nowhere else to be found unless in the favored oases of Arabia or the Ptolemaian farms along the Nile, and to sustain a sensation new as it was delightful, Ben-Hur was admitted into a tract of land apparently without limit and level as a floor. I just want to make a mention real quick. It mentioned the Ptolemaian farms, Ptolemy, of course, being a dynasty of kings of Egypt that were actually Greek, the last of which was the most famous of all, Cleopatra. So there you go. Little history lesson. All underfoot was fresh grass in Syria, the rarest and most beautiful production of the soil. If he looked up, it was to see the sky palely blue through the groinery of countless date-bearers, very patriarchs of their kind, so numerous and old and of such mighty girth, so tall, so serried, so wide of branch, each branch so perfect with fronds, plumy and wax-like and brilliant, they seemed enchanters enchanted. Here was the grass coloring the very atmosphere. There the lake, cool and clear, rippling but a few feet under the surface, and helping the trees to their long life in the old age. Did the grove of Daphne excel this one, and the palms, as if they knew Ben-Hur's thoughts, and would win him after a way of their own, seemed, as he passed under their arches, to stir and sprinkle him with dewy coolness. The road wound in close parallelism with the shore of the lake, and when it carried the travelers down to the water's edge, there was always on that side a shining expanse, limited not far off by the opposite shore, on which, as on this one, no tree but the palm was permitted. "See that?" said Malik, pointing to a giant of the place. "Each ring upon its trunk marks a year of its life. Count them from root to branch, and if the sheik tells you the grove was planted before the Seleucidae were heard of in Antioch, do not doubt him. one may not look at a perfect palm tree, but that with a subtlety all its own, it assumes a presence for itself and makes a poet of the beholder. This is the explanation of the honors it has received, beginning with the artists of the first kings, who could find no form in all the earth to serve them so well as a model for the pillars of their palaces and temples. And for the same reason Ben-Hur was moved to say, "As I saw him at the stand today, good Malach, Sheikh Ilderim appeared to be a very common man. The rabbis in Jerusalem would look down upon him, I fear, as a son of a dog of Edom. How came he in possession of the orchard, and how has he been able to hold it against the greed of Roman governors? If blood derives excellence from time, son of Arius, then is old Ilderim a man, though he be an uncircumcised Edomite." Malach spoke warmly. "All his fathers before him were sheiks. One of them, I shall not say when he lived or did the good deed, once helped a king who was being hunted with swords. The story says he loaned him 1,000 horsemen who knew the paths of the wilderness and its hiding places as shepherds know the scant hills they inhabit with their flocks. And they carried him here and there until the opportunity came, and then with their spears they slew the enemy and set him upon his throne again. And the king, it is said, remembered the service and brought the son of the desert to this place, and bade him set up his tent and bring his family and his herds. For the lake and trees and all the land from the river to the nearest mountains were his and his children's forever, and they have never been disturbed in the possession. The rulers succeeding have found it policy to keep good terms with the tribe, to whom the Lord has given increase of men and horses and camels and riches, making them masters of many highways between cities, so that it is with them any time they please to say to commerce, go in peace, or stop, and what they say shall be done. Even the prefect in the citadel overlooking Antioch thinks it happy a day when Ilderim, surnamed the Generous, on account of good deeds done unto all manner of men, with his wives and children, and his trains of camels and horses, and his belongings of sheep, moving as our fathers Abraham and Jacob moved, comes up to exchange briefly his bitter wells for the pleasantness you see about us." "How is it then," said Ben-Hur, who had been listening, unmindful of the slow gait of his dromedaries, "I saw the sheik tear his beard while he cursed himself that he had put trust in a Roman. Caesar, had he heard him, might have said, I like not such a friend as this, put him away. It would be but shrewd judgment," Malach replied, smiling. "Ilderim is not a lover of Rome, he has a grievance. 3 years ago the Parthians rode across the road from Bozrah to Damascus and fell upon the caravan laden, among other things, with the incoming tax returns of a district over that way. They slew every creature taken, which the censors in Rome could have forgiven if the imperial treasure had been spared and forwarded. The farmers of the taxes, being chargeable with the loss, complained to Caesar, and Caesar held Herod to payment, and Herod on his part seized property from Ilderim, whom he charged with treasonable neglect of duty. The sheik appealed to Caesar, and Caesar has made him such answer as might be looked for from the unwinking Sphinx. The old man's heart has been aching sore ever since, and he nurses his wrath and takes pleasure in its daily growth." The allusion to the Sphinx being, of course, that the Sphinx asks unsolvable riddles. And so that's what he's saying, is that Caesar's answer is basically just a bunch of gibberish. "He can do nothing, Malach." "Well," said Malach, "that involves another explanation, which I will give you. If we can draw nearer, but see, the hospitality of the sheik begins early. The children are speaking to you. The dromedary stopped, and Ben-Hur looked down upon some little girls of the Syrian peasant class, who were offering him their baskets filled with dates. The fruit was freshly gathered, and not to be refused, he stooped and took it, and as he did so, a man in the tree by which they were halted cried, "Peace to you, and welcome." Their thanks said to the children, the friends moved on at such gait as the animals chose. "You must know," Malak continued, pausing now and then to dispose of a date, "that the merchant Simonides gives me his confidence and sometimes flatters me by taking me into counsel, and as I attend him at his house, I have made acquaintance with many of his friends, who, knowing my footing with the host, talk of him freely in my presence. In that way I became somewhat intimate with Sheikh Ilderim." For a moment Ben-Hur's attention wandered. Before his mind's eye there arose the image, pure, gentle, and appealing, of Esther, the merchant's daughter. Her dark eyes, bright with the peculiar Jewish luster, met his in modest gaze. He heard her step as when she approached him with the wine, and her voice as she tendered him the cup, and he acknowledged to himself again all the sympathy she manifested for him, and manifested so plainly that words were unnecessary, and so sweetly that words would have been but a detraction. The vision was exceedingly pleasant, but upon his timing to Malak it flew away. "A few weeks ago," said Malak, continuing, "the old Arab called on Simonides and found me present. I observed he seemed much moved about something, and in deference offered to withdraw, but he himself forbade me. 'As you are an Israelite,' he said, 'stay, for I have a strange story to tell.' The emphasis on the word Israelite excited my curiosity. I remained, and this is in substance his story. I cut it short because we are drawing nigh the tent, and I leave the details to the good man himself. A good many years ago, 3 men called at Ilderim's tent out in the wilderness. They were all foreigners, a Hindu, a Greek, and an Egyptian, and they had come on camels, the largest he had ever seen, and all white. He welcomed them and gave them rest. Next morning they arose and prayed a prayer new to the sheikh, a prayer addressed to God and his son, with this with much mystery besides. After breaking fast with him, the Egyptian told who they were and whence they had come. Each had seen a star, out of which a voice had bidden them to go to Jerusalem and ask, 'Where is he that is born the King of the Jews?' They obeyed. From Jerusalem they were led by a star to Bethlehem, where in a cave they found a child newly born, which they fell down and worshipped. And after worshipping it and giving it costly presents and bearing witness of what it was, they took to their camels, and fled without pause to the sheikh, because if Herod, meaning him, surnamed the Great, could lay hands upon them, he would certainly kill them. And faithful to his habits, the sheikh took care of them and kept them concealed for a year, when they departed, leaving with him gifts of great value, and each going a separate way." "It is indeed a most wonderful story," Ben-Hur exclaimed at its conclusion. "What did you say they were to ask in Jerusalem?" "They were to ask, 'Where is he that is born King of the Jews?' Was that all?" "There was more to the question, but I cannot recall it." "And they found the child?" "Yes, and worshipped him." "It is a miracle, Malak." "Ilderim is a grave man, though excitable as all Arabs are. A lie on his tongue is impossible." Malak spoke positively. Thereupon the dromedaries were forgotten, and quite as unmindful as of their riders, they turned off the roads to the growing grass. "Has Ilderim nothing more of the 3 men?" asked Ben-Hur. "What became of them?" "Ah, yes, that was the cause of his coming to Simonides the day of which I was speaking. Only the night before that day the Egyptian reappeared to him." "Where?" "Here, at the door of the tent to which we are coming." "He knew the man?" "As you know the horses today, by face and manner." "But nothing else?" "He rode the same great white camel and gave him the same name, Balthazar the Egyptian." "It is a wonder of the Lord's." Ben-Hur spoke with excitement, and Malak, wondering, asked, "Why so?" "Balthazar, you said?" "Yes, Balthazar the Egyptian. That was the name the old man gave us at the fountain today." Then, at the reminder, Malak became excited. "It is true," he said, "and the camel was the same, and you saved the man's life." "And the woman," said Ben-Hur, like one speaking to himself. "The woman was his daughter." He fell to thinking, and even the reader will say he was having a vision of the woman, and that it was more welcome than that of Esther, if only because it stayed longer with him. But no. "Tell me again," he said presently. "Were the three to ask, 'Where is he that is to be the king of the Jews?'" "Not exactly. The words were, 'born to be king of the Jews.' Those were the words, as the old sheik caught them first in the desert, and he has ever since been waiting the coming of the king, nor can anyone shake his faith that he will come." "How? As king?" "Yes, and bringing the doom of Rome, so says the sheik." Ben-Hur kept silent a while, thinking and trying to control his feeling. "The old man is one of many millions," he said slowly, "one of many millions, each with a wrong to avenge, and this strange faith, Malak, is bread and wine to his hope. For who but a Herod may be king of the Jews while Rome endures? But," following the story, "did you hear what Simonides said to him?" "If Ilderim is a grave man, Simonides is a wise one," Malak replied. "If I listened and he said, 'But hark! Someone comes overtaking us.'" The noise drew louder, until presently they heard the rumble of wheels mixed with the beating of horse hoofs. A moment later Sheik Ilderim himself appeared on horseback, followed by a train, among which were the 4 wine-red Arabs drawing the chariot. The sheik's chin, in its muffling of long white beard, was drooped upon his breast. Our friends had out-travelled him, but at sight of them he raised his head and spoke kindly. "Peace to you! Ah, my friend Malak, welcome! And tell me, you are not going, but just come, that you have something for me from the good Simonides. May the Lord of his fathers keep him in life for many years to come. Aye, take up the straps, both of you, and follow me. I have bread and leaven, or, if you prefer it, arrack, and the fresh of young kid. Come." They followed after him. That, of course, is not kid like a little child. It is a kid like a young goat. They followed after him to the door of the tent, in which, when they were dismounted, he stood to receive them, holding a platter with 3 cups filled with creamy liqueur, just drawn from a great smoke-stained skin bottle pendant from the central post. "Drink," he said heartily, "drink, for this is the fear-not of the tent-men." They each took a cup, and drank till but the foam remained. "Enter now, in God's name." And when they were gone, Malak took the sheik aside and spoke to him privately, after which he went to Ben-Hur and excused himself. "I have told the sheik about you, and he will give you the trial of his horses in the morning. He is your friend. Having done for you all I can, you must do the rest, and let me return to Antioch. There is one there who has my promise to meet him tonight. I have no choice but to go. I will come back tomorrow, prepared, if all goes well in the meantime, to stay with you until the games are over." With blessings given and received, Malak set out in return. Chapter 11 is called "The Wise Servant and His Daughter," and that is what we will read tomorrow. And chapter 12, and possibly on. We'll see how far we get tomorrow. Being Christmas, I don't want to take up too much time tonight or tomorrow. So thank you, Rebecca, saying Merry Christmas, you guys. We appreciate you. Merry Christmas, Rebecca. Merry Christmas, Granny Bear. Merry Christmas to all of the people that follow this channel. Please, if you like these videos, please press that little thumbs up button on YouTube. I appreciate it. I know I've been getting a lot of views lately, so I appreciate that. Otherwise, I'm going to bid you adieu and spend the rest of the night with my family and find out whether or not Santa comes. I might have to sleep on the couch and wait for him and see what happens.
Can I?
No, you can't.
Why not?
Kimberly asked if she could. I said no. All right, because I'm your dad, and that's what I said. All right. Good night, everybody. Merry Christmas.